Alright, so I was going to take the day off after covering Bucharest all of last week, but then I remembered there was a roster move that happened, and I didn't get a chance to make a video on it because I was busy with other stuff. Let's talk about Furia finally making a change, and it might be the weirdest roster move of all year, and one of the weirdest ones in recent CS memory. If you missed the news, after failing to make it out of the group stage yet again at PGO Bucharest, Furia finally announced a change. Cello, who's one of their worst performing players, is heading to the bench. And who's gonna come in? Could it be something new? Can we finally get a good Furia team? It's Molodoy from Amcal. The Kazakhstani Opper is coming into the Brazilian Furia, and Fallen is still on the team. And Fallen's gonna be a rifler now. So okay. Basically, this is just weird, and we're going to talk about how weird it is, what this means for the future of Furia, why this org never, ever will succeed with the way it's currently managed, and what could possibly happen to build around JesseTiv and make a winning team. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure you take a second, leave a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The majority of you who watch these videos are not subscribed, so help me reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And lastly, before we get started, I would like to thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video is sponsored by Skin Club. They are one of the most popular case opening sites in the scene with over 100 custom cases backed by their provably fair system. You can open cases individually or wager your winnings against other users in case battles, either with players around the world or privately with bots if you want to avoid being smurfed outside of Premier as well. But wait, there's more. Skin Club runs monthly events with free rewards to earn, free daily cases, and if you don't like what you earned, you can always go for a cheeky little upgrade to get something you do. If you want to play on Skin Club, you can do so at the top link in the description down below and get a 7% deposit bonus when you top off your account with credit card, crypto, or the 5,000 Peach 50 sand dunes in your inventory. Please gamble responsibly and only do so if you are over 18 and live in a country or jurisdiction that doesn't restrict gambling. Gambling can be an addiction, and you should never gamble for the purposes of making profit. Only wager what you are comfortable losing. If you or a loved one are suffering from gambling addiction in the US or Canada, you can reach out to 1-800-GAMBLER toll-free to get help. I want you to be safe and healthy always, so seek help if you need it. And thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. Okay, so let's just get into the nuts and bolts of it. Obviously, I think Cello was one of the first pieces you would want to replace on Furia. He is the most expendable because the core of JesseTiv, Yuri, and Skulls is a core that you can build around. The biggest issues for Furia for me have always been in-game leadership and consistency. I have thought for a while that while Fallen is not a terrible in-game leader, I think Big Uzera is straight up a better option, but obviously with the way that Brazil works, it just wasn't tenable for a buyout to happen. The contracts are too extreme, orgs want to hold on to their players too much, so they were kind of in a stuck position. How much can you do to shuffle around when Fallen is not good enough to be your Opper and IGL at a tier 1 level? So in theory, replacing somebody to be the new Opper makes a lot of sense. It's just very, very weird that they are going with a European Opper who does not speak Portuguese in an all Portuguese speaking lineup, when pretty much all of these players at different points other than Fallen have preferred to play in Portuguese-speaking lineups. JesseTiv has intimated that over and over again is the big reason why he hasn't gone to teams despite there being credible offers from organizations like Liquid in the past. Skulls did not feel comfortable at Liquid, for example, and felt much more comfortable going back to a Portuguese-speaking organization, and that's why his stats have been better since he's been there. So it just seems like we're making this huge sea change all at once, where Fallen's not going to op anymore. He's going to be stuck on rifle. He's going to be dog shit. You're bringing in an English-speaking player, so all the team is going to have to switch to English, and then Molodoy is going to have to make the jump from Tier 2 online to Tier 1 lands. That's a lot of dominoes that you are trying to kick over in one fell swoop. And consider this, we are so close to the major. Furia is going to be trying to bed in an unproven Opper at LAN in the road to Austin. This just seems so oddly timed to make this much of a shift. And that's me not trying to diss Molodoy, by the way, because this kid's like crazy good. Just looking at his stats, he's at like a 1.26 rating so far for Amcal this year. Now again, mostly online, you know, not exactly the most high level competition he's dealing with. But I go watch the demos, I watched the highlights of this kid. His aim is incredible. He didn't strike me as someone who's like overly aggressive and just relying on kind of smurfing on lower competition. He seems to be a very stable anchor on the CT side. He still has a fairly good opening success rate, which is what you want to see from an opper, someone who's going to burst you open on the T side more. But he doesn't seem to be like, you know how like when Ultimate first got to Team Liquid, he was like setting records for opening attempt rates that we had seen at Tier 1 that year? No, Molodoy does not appear to be cut from that kind of cloth. So my read on him is that he should be more consistent in a LAN environment, but he's never played him. He's never done it before. I mean, the dude has 148 total recorded maps on HLTV in his career. That is an insane leap. Like, I believe even Malbs, for the lack of experience he did when he jumped to G2, I believe Malbs had more experience with M80 than Molodoy does with Omcall. I will say, I would expect him to get off to a good start, because the first event that this Furia will play at will be PGL Astana, which is of course in Kazakhstan. So Molodoy is going to be making his LAN debut in a Tier 1 organization in his home country. If one thing's going to inspire him to, have his best possible showing, it would be that. We really have to watch how this develops over the first couple of events, because I'm willing to bet you that Molodoy will pop off, win or lose, in his showings with Furia at Astana. There's so many question marks. That's the bottom line. Anyways, all that feels a little bit secondary to the fact that this will 100% kill Fallen as a viable threat in the server from now on. Because I hate to break it to you guys, even at his peak, like 2016 Fallen, he was never an insane rifler. He's a main opper for a reason. Like, he's just not going to be good on the rifles. Like, we're talking someone who is going to already put up near Snacks Kerrigan numbers, but the difference was when Fallen got the op in his hands, he was decently efficient. He'd always be good in a clutch situation. He would just show flashes of classic Fallen with the op in his hands. Obviously, he was never good enough. He couldn't hang with like top 10 oppers in the world. That was very clear, but he's less than useful as a primary rifler, and he's already not that great of an IGL. So at this point, if this is not Fallen's swan song, like the last ride for him, and we're looking for Fallen to exit soon, this move makes no sense. Just as like a final note here before I kind of talk broadly about the Brazilian scene for another few minutes, I just really don't know what to expect, because the upcoming calendar for Furia, they're going to Astana, as we already said. They then go right to Dallas, and then it's the major. So they have two events that are basically back to back, and then a brief week break before the Austin major. So they have just no time left on the calendar to really boot camp and integrate this roster. I would not be surprised if Furia bomb out of stage 2 of the major, which is where they're placed currently, just because the overhaul for the system is going to be so hard to overcome, especially the switch to the languages. That's going to be the biggest issue. As far as I know Fallen speaks great English, so does Skulls, and I think K-Serato as well. I don't know how much English Yuri speaks, but I would assume it's serviceable. But you're still having to switch and communicate in a language you're not comfortable doing it. Same thing with Molodoy, by the way. Obviously, he's not a primary English speaker, so the communication's going to be scuffed. Fallen's not going to be able to call around himself with the op. He's never had to call for another opper in his career. There's so many roadblocks to their success. It's just so confusing. So I want to turn over to you guys for this part. If you're a Brazilian fan, you live in Brazil, or you follow South American Counter-Strike closely, what's like the response on like the floor there? What's the response on Brazilian Twitter? What's like your guys' read on this move? Because I can't make heads or tails of it, truly. Anyways, I've said this before in other videos when talking about Pain, Furia, MIBR. It's very clear from an outside perspective, there is a top 5, there is a title contending team in Brazilian Counter-Strike, just the pieces can't come together. And it's really shitty that the only obstacles that these orgs are run by assholes. Like, that's what it is at the end of the day. Brazilian CS orgs want to operate like Brazilian football orgs, so they have these extremely untenably high level buyouts, because in Brazilian football, my understanding is that they're worried about poaching. They're worried about Brazilian talent getting poached to other international football leagues, and they want to protect their domestic output. But at the same time, who the fuck cares about that in esports, dude? You just want to build the best teams you can. And if you just gave Big Uzera, K-Serato, you put like Safe as the opper, you get like Insani as your aggressive piece, and like Lukowski is the last, that team would be fucking gas. And that's just like one iteration. You could take Yuri, Davideus, Insani. There's so many players in Brazil who could be on a top 10 or better team. Biguzera is a great IGL, and it's just like we're just scattering all these pieces to the wind in several rosters that are like okay, but they're never gonna do anything. Obviously, Brazilian culture is very prideful, and you guys have a lot to be proud about with your domestic talent, and I don't want to take any of that away. But this is an honest question from me to Brazilian fans who may be watching this video. How are you guys okay with this? How are you guys satisfied with being stuck here? Because again, I say it time and time and again, Brazil talent-wise, you're better than North America. You guys are one of the strongest regions outside of Europe, and you should be contending for titles. And I don't know what to do because obviously you can't change the ownership groups, but like, are the fans ever going to get sick of it? This is a genuine question. Are you guys ever just going to get frustrated enough to not support these teams? And I get that's like an unrealistic ask because again, the national pride of Brazil is a huge part of your guys' culture, and I respect that. But at the same time, I feel like you guys have to want better at a certain point. So yeah, I don't know. I just want to talk about this move because I didn't get a chance to next week. I have no idea if this video is going to do well because it's not timed with when the move's happening. Hope you guys enjoyed my mad ramble about Furia continuing to be weird. Best of luck to him because I think Molodoy is a great talent. This is the weirdest move of the year in terms of fit, surely. Anyways, make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, help me hit that 10K by the end of the year, and thank you to Skin Clover for sponsoring this video. Check the top link in the description, get 7% deposit bonus next time you fill up. Make sure you gamble safely and responsibly. Thank you to my channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furia, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Vander, Vegt, I'm Flashbank, Snowy White, Rowdy, Vergil'sPlasticChair, and Sid Pro 12. If you guys would come on the channel member, you can do so link to the description down below for 5 months below to support directly as well as get your name at the end of the video just like this. Thank you to my channel members. And lastly, follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ. I'll be live tonight streaming Elden Ring. I'm fighting Melania and getting my ass kicked. So if you want to see that live, you can do so there. Alright, bye.